what we first had intended. And so let me pull up this project plan stuff because I think it needs to be re-looked at here and updated
Okay.
accurately.
Right.
I'm going to share screen here for.
Okay.
Okay, so message Brian too. Somebody else is in here looking.
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, I'm working on the. Okay, so let's see here. So you should only be able to read. Okay, so this is what we are given, right? Priority transition from in-house to run some tests to measure costs and better understand performance. Concept is to take some existing data validation and or data processing tools and run them in the cloud as close as possible to the production environment. So the terminology here is even kind of frustrating because, right, they say some existing data validation and or data processing tools and run them in the cloud as close as possible to a typical production environment. So like some doesn't mean the whole process. And then as close as possible to a typical production environment, would that be a cloud production or would that be on-prem, right? Like those are details that matter and vastly change the outcome. And so the outcome will be a report and cost and performance and recommendations on next steps. Like this is the important part to me. Goal.
I think it should actually specify that we are migrating our existing data validation, right, and process workflow to AWS to stimulate production performance.
Well, and so this is what I was given. So like this is their overview. And I need to talk with Amanda to see if this part can be changed. From my understanding, like this is what they're giving me.
Okay.
I build the rest off of it. So I need to see, if this part can be modified, if I can change this, then I definitely will update some of this. Like so run tests. Run some tests, measure the costs. About that, the concept is take some existing data validation or so. Seems like the plan is to test all, not just some. And then run them in the cloud as close as possible. And the current typical is that's a specification that matters there. We're going to try to make it match what we currently have, which is just doing an EKS. for now. That'll be the first phase. And then, so the outcome will be a report about the cost. So like what it costs to run a project through, how, if it's efficient, how, how it performs, and then potential next steps of what, what we could break out or what we could do, as in, move some of the containers out to their own individual instant or EK or ECS as opposed to a permanent, as opposed to staying in that EKS, right? So what Andrew was getting at is that we currently, all of our stuff lives in one cluster, and we just spin up containers for each component. So like the website has a container within the cluster. The workers have a container within the cluster. The database is actually a container within the cluster. All these pieces live, exclusively in the cluster. And so, and that just makes me think, for the database in the EKS, that would need a permanent location, right? Permanent storage location, right? Okay, so that means I probably need to update my picture here.
So, so the goal for that phase is to replicate our single cluster setup in our AWS EKS first.
I think so. I think that is going to be like the fastest and most close to what we already do.
Right.
Right. So then it's going to be what gets us going quickest. And then, okay, so let me see if I can rename. So then I'm going to copy this guy. Replicate current configuration. Okay, so this, because there are going to have to be changes. I do think that we will have to make some piece, changes.
Changes.
So,
yep.
right. And so what our plan will be is to do a Kubernetes EKS, right? So that it'll be to basically build what we already have and move it to the cloud. And then what this will have to be is delivery to the cloud. Let me find the button here that I wanted to use. I will do download. Where's the upload button? Oh, there we go. All right. So this is going to be. So what I don't know, and what this is something I was talking to Andrew about is, what I'm not sure about is how the data is going to live, like where it's going to live or set, or how that's going to work, because I don't know that we can operate completely out of a bucket. So if the data is uploaded to the cloud, right, to a S3 bucket, we have a lot of data that would eventually or get delivered potentially, like petabytes almost near. So the data would be delivered to the cloud. We have to mount that somehow to the or have the EKS be able to access that data, right? Are you familiar with any, I guess, method? So I think we would be able to read most of it from.
So for that we can. So there's something we can use the S3 CS driver to mount the S3 bucket directly to the port.
What did you say it was called?
So we can use we can actually use that in two ways, right? So we can actually use probably like AWS data sync, right, to move the larger data sets or into like EBS volume.
So kind of what would have to happen, I guess, from what has been described to me too, is that they would deliver it to a bucket, like an S3 bucket, and we'd have to move it from there to somewhere else, like more of a permanent storage location, cloud storage. And then I guess that somehow that cloud storage has to be attached to the bucket, right? Or to the EKS.
Yes. So once the data lands in the say like S3 buckets, so we can actually trigger an automated data sync job. So we can use like if EFS.
Okay, yeah. So that's I think that's what Andrew had said probably is an
E-
EFS.
EFS, yeah. So we can trigger the automated data sync job to stage it into our EFS, into EFS. Then so it will actually process it by EKS port. So majorly we can use our EFS for that.
Okay, and so then if I'm understanding this right, I'm trying to do some reading here too. So if I do, okay, I'm gonna do a text box here for the data. So S3, no file system,
Right.
no native file system. Okay. And then
So
so persistent volume, EBS or
no
EFS.
EFS. So we
So
can
I guess,
use
is there a difference here? Single node. Okay, so not easily shared. Okay. So EBS can't be really shared,
yeah,
but
it can be. Yeah.
EFS.
So the difference between EBS and EFS, EBS is actually like it can be easily shared, but EFS is like network. Is
So it can be
it's
shared across like cluster or
across
nodes.
yeah, across region, across AZ.
Okay, so shared file storage. Okay.
Correct.
So that is okay, so and so we would need some sort of EFS for our like a scratch space to like write data to and kind of handle moving stuff or doing stuff. So shared data sets. Okay, so that's for shared data sets. Pipelines needing has file semantics. Yeah, I'm trying to like kind of get a better understanding of all these components, and that's kind of where Andrew and I have issues, right? Is we're not familiar with the different pieces here and how they can play together. And so, what Andrew's question in that call is, why do we need to break our pieces out into, this would be to initial components, move to ECS. So these would each be their own ECS essentially, and then I guess the database would be a RDS if I'm understanding it right. But so then it's like, why do these need to be broken out? Why can't they all just run on the EKS and just the way we do it now, right? Like, is there a cost savings that you think would come from like having our constantly running stuff on a ECS as opposed to in the EKS?
So, so the thing is, ECS with Fagrits can reduce costs for like if we run our ECS with Fagrits can actually reduce costs for constantly running workload. So because with ECS we actually pay per task, without managing the nodes.
Okay, so ECS. Would it be cheaper to run permanent running pieces like a Django Postgres database setup on AWS, AWS ECS with that runs processing, process jobs, data. Okay, so I'm trying to type out some questions here too. Okay, that runs data processing. On a S or just run the Go. See if this makes any sense, but okay, so I'm cheating here, right? And I'm using kind of trying to get some fast answers from ChatGPT, and obviously it's not a end all be all answer, right? But so like this is saying, yeah, that that the everything in the EKS is simpler. Oh, and often not more expensive unless you're highly optimizing costs. Okay, so this sounds like maybe we're fine. Okay, so it sounds like we probably don't necessarily have to. Option A, Django Postgres on Amazon ECS, workers on the EKS, communication, SQS. Okay, so there's an issue too, is that I can't edit it because I'm not signed in. Okay, so through Rabbit MQ / Redis due to SQS constraints. Now try.
Alright.
How many always on resources you're paying for, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, so this I think is more close. I didn't mention the original or the SQS portion doesn't really work because of our the way we're using the messaging. It doesn't super
Yeah, sometimes SQS can be if we actually need real time, I'll say like a bidirectional communication. Yeah.
So and so there's a lot of stuff that we get from like a RabbitMQ or
RabbitMQ, yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to suggest, like, so RabbitMQ.
So we use Rabbit we use RabbitMQ in one place and Redis in another. And that probably could be converted back potentially. We were trying to address some issues that I think were probably an on-prem cluster issue more than the RabbitMQ issue. But the SQS doesn't have all the same features that RabbitMQ or Redis has. So there's features that we're using that SQS can't replicate. And so we can't really use SQS. And so that kind of is a complication as well. And so this is saying running Django and Postgres in the same cluster is usually cheaper. So I think this is probably the right way to do it then, than splitting into Amazon ECS. Not more expensive. Okay, well. Okay, so that kind of makes sense, is that idle capacity can be reused. So if we have if our front end is always running, right? Like our Django Postgres setup is always running.
Right.
And we don't have any jobs queued, then they can just use the full EKS nodes, right? And so like they can scale up as much as needed until a job is queued, and then that can scale accordingly, right? If we have an ECS set up for the Django part, and then the database part, those have set resources attached, right?
Right.
And so you're always running those resources and using them, but then we wouldn't really be saving any money by having it separate, it sounds like. And splitting introduces duplication and not savings. Cost breakdown, always on surface. Django, yeah. So these, I know those are 24/7 workloads, so they dominate the cost. Split ECS and EKS needs dedicated compute. Yeah, so EC2. What's the difference between EC2 and ECS?
EC2 is an instance. So EC2 is just like orderly. It's a virtual machine service. So while the
Okay.
yeah, so instance ECS is just like I would say like orchestration layer that schedule containers. So on top of our EC2,
So EC2 is just like a empty machine, like it's just a base machine, a bare bones machine, sort of. And
yes, correct.
Has additional stuff on top of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So we could do it kind of either way. It sounds like it, but they keep saying ECS, so I'm assuming dedicated compute. Okay, so EC. Okay. So EKS workers need separate compute. So then, yeah, we're having two different setups because the EKS has to always have something set up, right? Like it's always got to have something sort of running to be able to pick up jobs. Like there's at least like a bare minimum amount that has to be running, right? Even if you kind of spin it down. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, so it's like EKS needs like a minimum baseline of nodes, right, to stay operational. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So it would still have a cost even if we're not using it. Like when we're not having any jobs queued, we'd still have a cost to the ECS or EC2, right? Basically, by splitting out our front end to a separate ECS or EC2, whichever, we're basically we will always have the front end running, but then we would also have to always have the EKS running. We could just kill off the containers within it, but we would still have to be on in order to pick up jobs.
Yes.
Or could that be automated so that if we queue a job, then that could turn on the EKS?
Yes, exactly. If we scale ports down to 0, the control we can actually do scaling as well in EKS.
You say a scalar?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is we can actually automate there's what I call like a cluster autoscaler. Yes. So just like it scale up and down. So when there's more traffic, it scales up, and when there's less traffic, it scales down.
But so does that, when it scales down, does it turn the EKS off like completely, or does it just scale it down to minimum bare bones?
Oh no. So the EKS control plane always stay up. So
okay, so that's what I'm saying is then we'd have the control plane, which would have a cost because it's always on.
Yes.
We'd also have the ECS always on for the front end. So that's two costs, right? But if we have just the EKS and we have all of our components in it, then we have the EKS running with the front end in it. In a bare bones situation, that would stay on, but it would only be one component turned on with the container in it, as opposed to an EKS and an ECS separately, right? So like it's saying that if we split it, we have two costs, but if we keep it in one, we only have one cost that we can scale down as much as needed. So I think is that making sense? Like it's
yes. I mean, consolidating everything into one. You mean like consolidating everything into like one EKS cluster, right? Yeah. So what that means is like it means we will be maintaining a single always on environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the EKS would be always on, right?
Right.
And then we have certain apps within there that are always on, but then we could have certain containers that we could kill for the workers that we don't always need on. Right? Because have you seen our current setup? Let me see if I can get to it real fast, but if I'm able to actually log into everything. But so within our current containers, our current cluster, we have a container or I keep mixing up my terminologies. A pod, I think it's pods, right? Is Kubernetes pods, or is that the Docker I'm thinking of?
The Kubernetes pods.
Okay, So in Kubernetes, we have, each pod for our different pieces or each component, right? So like we have a Django web app that runs, and then we have a database pod that runs, so those are both always up. Then we have what we call our workers, which are our data processing tools, right? And so when we auto scale those. So when when we don't have jobs going, we can kill those down to, as minimal as possible, or essentially none. But when there are jobs going, we can scale them up, right? So it's just the scaling. But otherwise, in this one we were kind of talking about going to, these would all be constantly running. Each of these would be ECSs, their own ECS. And I actually need to copy this and do this so that it makes more sense. And show it better. But like these would each be their own ECS. And I'm gonna break this out. This and this. Nope. Sorry, I think it's easier to kind of explain sometimes with pictures,
Because yes.
to make it a little more easy to understand what I'm trying to say here, hopefully. And then I don't even need these white boxes, but and this guy would be, I guess, a RDS, right, for the PostGIS database. Does that sound right?
Components move.
For a PostGIS database?
Yes.
Is that
RDS.
kind of equivalent?
Yes, RDS.
Okay, so then. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, so then this guy. I think this will hopefully do a better job of showing what I'm trying to. What we were proposing originally. I think it sounds like we've kind of pivoted away from, right? Okay, so then those will be over here. Close enough. Okay, so then this will kind of, I think this better represents what I was trying to show. So basically we would have, if all of this were still in the cluster, this would be an EKS, right? And these would all be, this would be ECS, RDS, ECS, ECS. So we'd have 3 different ECSs running plus the RDS, and then the EKS running everything else initially. And that would be, we'd have that many containers or many ECSs plus the EKS cost. But if we just move everything over to EKS, all of these are within the one piece, right? And then it's just each of those containers can be, scaled up or down as needed, I guess. And that's kind of and I don't know what this will be. Distribution. I think this will be probably removed, I guess. Okay, so then. And so I'm trying to kind of remove a lot of the pieces. Kind of clean this up and make it less make it make more sense here. Okay, so this is more of the proposed new solution, right? And so everything would still exist on the EKS.
Good.
All of these would basically be pods. All these different pieces would be pods.
Yeah.
And so within the EKS, right? So on the cluster, all of these pieces would be pods. And then some of these can be like, well, they'll all be auto scaled, or at least the workers can be auto scaled down, and we can turn those numbers up. The other pieces really can be pretty much static. And I guess if we think they can be scaled, they can. But this is essentially what we do. This is what we do right now.
Okay.
Right? We have everything running one place. Let's see if I got connected here. Okay. Let me pull up my.
Secure.
Yeah, I gotta get logged into the cluster here, or to the. And then. Copy. So I gotta try to open this and. Okay, so let me do.
Yep.
And so and this isn't even a good example because this isn't all of them. So let me do.
So one namespace. Okay.
Okay, so this is our current cluster setup for this is for Elevate, right? So we
Wow.
have our Elevate web container, so our Elevate web pod, and then we have all of these are individual workers
Okay.
for different kind of components. So LPC, and then we have OPR workers, and these can scale up and down. So like we can have right now, apparently they're running. These can take jobs, right? All these workers can receive independent jobs, and then they can, as those jobs die off, we can scale these down, right?
Right.
These auto scale, or these can be set up to auto scale. And then we also run additional, we have a Flower pod that is running for, monitoring our RabbitMQ stuff. We have a GeoServer pod set up, which is on that picture. Wrong one. It is in the right. So GeoServer pod set up there. And so then we have the web pod, which is the Django front end stuff, right? And then all of these are data processing workers pods. And so all of this lives in one cluster. And all these are pods. And so that's how this is currently set up. And maybe I'll take a screenshot of this because this would be a good kind of example. I think the Redis, I don't know for Elevate where RabbitMQ lives. Let me see. It's what's going on here? I lose connection. I don't know what's going on.
Oh. Okay. I see you.
Oh, that was watch. I'm sorry. That's why. I was like, what is going on? Oops. Okay. All right. So yeah, I was doing a watch apparently. Okay. So there's RabbitMQ. Okay. So I think this is going to be a good probably picture to have shown there.
Sure. Okay.
And I think this will help maybe kind of put in somewhat perspective, right? So current configuration.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so this, I'm going to. Okay. So this is just Elevate, right? These are all the worker pods that we have running on Elevate on the cluster. So under the Elevate namespace. And so that we have similar, essentially same setup for Validate, where we have pod, I think we have Redis for Validate. We have Redis and then all these workers. Then we have a web container. I have to see what the vdatum is. Oh, that's right. Dang it. Okay. That's another pod that I got to put on here that I didn't account for. It's kind of separate. So I'll put it separately like this one.
Okay. Yeah.
Hopefully this is kind of making a little bit more sense.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be about. It will makes it more clearer.
And all this is kind of, datum, trying to just capture all the components too. Separately. So that is a little bit better representation, hopefully, and it will hopefully make it more sense.
Yeah.
This is what that is. I think I might copy this and just this picture. And basically do the same thing here and show that this is a setup to that. Big connector, do straight line, and then do shape arrow. Got it. So straight line. Okay. And this is obviously would be obviously in EKS, so it's probably be separate, but not obviously not mappa one. But that's like what our cluster kind of looks like. And so
Yeah.
does that maybe make a little bit more sense?
Yes. Yeah. Sure. With this screenshot, at least it makes it more clear. Yeah. So at least yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense.
And hopefully that will better describe,
So
what it is that we're trying to do here. All the components on here too, so that get that. could probably shift all that down. You know, kind of perfectionist is kind of annoying. I want it to like,
Yeah.
be nice, but I don't need to spend this much time on it. Okay. So that kind of hopefully, has a good representation of what it is, of how our system works and what we're trying to go to. So it's essentially the exact same thing, just minus some the on-prem pieces. And it's just the EKS instead of Kubernetes.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, so essentially just running an EKS instead of the on-premises cluster, so giving us a managed scaling and resiliency, yeah. And honestly, the way the screenshot you gave it makes it more clear and to make more sense.
Okay. And then I'm going to probably put another one of these here just to show that we will probably have to have scratch space of probably EFS, cloud storage. So this is the part that I'm not super sure about. EFS, because where that data will sit or how we'll be able to use it will, we're not positive how we'll be able to interact with data yet in our processes, right? So if we can process data in an S3 bucket or not, we're not super sure. Like if our processes can handle an S3 bucket very well, I'm not really positive,
Mm. So, well, I believe we can test that but probably by staging a data set in S3 buckets.
Yeah. And I think that will be that's going to be necessary at some point to figure out.
Yeah.
Because we'll have to have it attached. That will go. We think we'll need scratch space for like creating different types of data. So like geo packages, I think they have to be able to stay open and be written to. And I don't know that we can do that sort of stuff, or we can't treat S3 like a file system, right? Like it doesn't operate like a file system. And so that's
it's not ideal. S3 is not ideal for active file system now.
Okay, and so that would be my understanding, and then we would need that attached so that we can, do different things within different components. I'm not sure which ones need it, but basically we'd have to have some sort of scratch space attached. Does that get attached to the cluster, to the EKS, and then all of the pods could then talk to it, like they'd be mounted within a pod? Or is it mounted per pod, or how? I guess I'm not sure how that part works.
So so since the EFS is kind of like a network, right? So we can mount it directly to the EKS cluster. So and all the pods that needs to share the storage can access it through the PV, the persistent volume.
Okay, so So shared stuff like that, where multiple pods would be, possibly writing to something or
Exactly.
things like that
Yeah.
would have to be EFS, and that wouldn't
EFS.
really work with the S3.
Oh, say that one more time.
Shared. So things where we'd have to be able to write to one list, or so say like a CSV file, right?
Right.
If we had multiple pods working on a CSV that are appending to the CSV, that really wouldn't work with S3. It would need to be EFS because it's shared as opposed to being streamed through S3 kind of.
Yeah. So I would say I would say like concurrent write to a single CSV can cause like a file locking issue.
Yeah,
So,
but
yeah.
there are some where that's not an issue. GeoPackage, we can kind of do multiple writes, and there are different scenarios where we do appending, or we handle multiple reads and things from a file. But I think we have to have the EFS attached for certain scenarios because there's shared data across the pods.
Across the pods.
I just don't know what we can do with the S3 bucket where the data is originally delivered to. Are we going to have to move data from the cloud, from the S3 to the Scratch space or not? To process it. Will we have to do a move between the two?
So with that, so we can actually treat S3 buckets, right, as an injection layer. So just like where our data lands.
So like when the data comes in, I guess they're talking that it may potentially come from a vendor pay bucket. So like they would be paying for the S3 bucket, which would mean we'd have to move it out of there to collect it, right? So we'd have to move it out of their bucket to our own bucket that we pay for. And so that would be, can we process it in that new space, or can we process it in between? Like from where they have it, from the bucket they deliver to us, right? Can we run a process and do something to the data while we move it? That'd have to be like another ECS instance that can run on that data. Or I guess one of our workers could connect to that bucket, process it, and then output it in our actual more storage location, right? That'd be kind of an option.
Right.
So it'd kind of be trying to draw this in a good way here. It'd kind of be like it go from here, we connect it to our cluster, read the data, and then move it to the storage location. To our storage location, right? So like this part we'll have to talk about with everybody else. I'm not really sure, how much I'm understanding here, but this would be like more of a
Hey, Brandon. Hey, please, quick one. I don't know. I want to go pick my daughter real quick from the daycare. I'll be back in let's say like 20-30 minutes.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I do want to, when you're back, I do want to look at that planning document. I think that we could basically, I just want to figure out what the steps are to get this EKS stuff set up, and that we can write that down. So, okay.
Yeah, I'll ping you once I'm back.
When you're back. I do have a meeting at 1:30, but I'm free after that.
Oh, okay, awesome.
1:30 Central. So, all right. I will catch you later then. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Oh boy, time don't go. Yeah, it's a bit very good. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. Hello.
Henry, hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for jumping on with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here today.
Yeah, so we have Terry's not on yet, and he's going to be joining us here in a minute.
Oh, okay.
But we can kind of give you, we'll introduce ourselves. And today, I don't know, has anybody talked to you about the interview and what we're going to talk about today?
Well, so the last time I just talked to Terry, so he actually gave me a high level overview of everything. Yeah, that's just it. So I will actually love to, if you can share more.
Sure.
It's been,
So I'll start real quick, and Kevin's going to jump in, and Terry too. But I'll give you a quick introduction of myself and tell you a little bit about the practice and a little bit about the role. So, um, I'm Murat Yudikoğlu. So I've been working at CloseNet for about 4 years. I'm the CTO.
okay.
Come from a background mainly doing startups out of the Bay Area. So um, CloseNet is different. So CloseNet, it's a 50 state telehealth and we call hybrid primary care. So hybrid means we have physical locations
Oh,
and we have we're also in the cloud. Well, we have virtual, right? But
right.
we're in multiple states. We're all 50 states. So the idea is a combination. You can see us whatever is convenient, especially if you're in our main market. We call it the DMV, and the DMV is DC, Maryland, and Northern
Maryland.
Virginia,
Right.
right? And so a lot of our work is in the cloud. We have our whole digital front door, all of our tools, but we also have we also have physical locations.
Right.
So we have traditional IT. We got about 500 people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're owned by a larger company called Care First, and Care First is a Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Local special,
And
yeah.
so what's a little special about them is they're the home plan of the United States government. So they work at a very strict level. So it's not quite FedRAMP, if you're familiar with FedRAMP,
Yeah,
but
federal, yeah.
it's very close to FedRAMP. So for a little practice, you wouldn't have these level of security standards and this level of governance, but we have it because we deal with very sensitive data, right? Theoretically through our system. It can be anybody in the US government.
Okay.
So we also we're like a startup where we have apps and Rails apps and software engineers, but we also have doctors and connections to Athena, and we're in Azure, and we have data coming from all over the place.
Mhm.
So the role is really important in that we're a 24-hour operation. We have
Okay.
patients coming 24 hours a day, and our main business hours are when our like just kind of normal doctor's business hours that you would expect for a physical location. So
Yeah.
everything's got to work. So it's got to be, and it's also healthcare. So people could be in crisis. People are already very grumpy because they're sick. So it's definitely a demanding environment from a technical standpoint, from a security, uptime, and the stakes. And the role, we do everything in Terraform. So
Mhm.
we use very modern practices, even though we're owned by, it's not going to be as modern as X probably, but it'll be still pretty modern, I think.
Right.
So we strive to be very much like what a modern startup would look like in terms of our infrastructure, in terms of like, we would look like more of a tech company than like a healthcare company.
Okay. Right.
So that's kind of my high level overview. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything to that.
I don't think so. Sorry for joining late, Larry. I was on a call with Microsoft. I needed to get some billing things straightened out, but thanks for joining today. And it looks like you already got a good start.
Right.
So I'm going to let Murat and Kevin kind of run this interview, and I'll just be here in the background.
Well, and we have this interview, we only have it set for, I think it's 45 minutes, but 45 minutes is really not enough time, I think, for one person, much less three people. I don't know how much time, if you can make it to the top of the hour. Larry, how do you pronounce your name?
Larry, yeah, you said it right. You just said it right. Larry, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I'm pretty much open to.
Because we're going to ask some questions, but I always want to leave 15 minutes for you to ask it. Even as we're going through this, if you have any questions, any topic, just say, hey, what about this? What about that?
Right.
So the role, you've probably seen, it's 6 months
Right.
of contract to hire. The
Right.
goal is not necessarily like, the goal is to get somebody who's full-time.
Right.
And then we do the 6 months mainly to make sure that there's a good fit, and that we still have the needs, but the job is a full-time role, and the idea is for it to convert, and it may even convert earlier. It all just really depends on how everything is kind of working.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying to think if there's any. I don't really have a lot of. I'm not the technical guy for this, but I think Kevin, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself and ask some questions. Yeah, we can go that way.
Hey, Kevin, you're muted.
Yep, that's how we start every meeting, right? Is someone being on mute. Yeah, so I'm Kevin Sorensen. Good to meet you virtually. So I'm one of the cloud engineers, or an Azure admin, or DevOps, SRE, all kinds of whatever title floats and fits. But yeah, I spend most of my time focusing on Azure and trying to secure it and deploy new things and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I kind of wanted to just dive into some technical stuff, some of your background, and like Murat said, later on we can talk more about questions you have or those kind of things. But I was looking through your resume. I see you've got a lot of cloud experience. It looks like most of it's AWS or GCP. So maybe, and that's perfectly fine. So could you give me maybe a high level summary, last 5 or 10 years, or like the kind of work that you've done in the cloud, and what maybe the stuff you found most interesting, what was the most challenging? Just give us a high level, and then we can dive in after that.
Yeah, awesome. I say thank you so much for everyone for having me on here today. So my name is Larry Obisheson. I go by Larry, So I have over 10 plus years of experience. So my background, I started as a Linux engineer, as a system admin guy. So whereby that is where I got exposed, working with a Linux operating system and Windows operating system. So if you're looking for a Linux guy and a Windows guy, I'm that guy, so I'm pretty much, I can work on both operating systems. So then I moved to the cloud, so currently at X Technologies, so we're actually supporting a DoD space, so it's a DLA, Defense Logistic Agency under DoD. So I'm a very collaborative person because it's a very large program. So I'm part of the 5 DevOps platform engineer under the platform team. So this is the way my environment is set up. We have the platform team, we have the cybersecurity team, we have the system team, we have the application team. So altogether we have 24 members. So, but I'm part of the 5 DevOps engineer under the platform team. So for that engagement, I'm a very collaborative person. I collaborate with other teams member in case of any dependency and all that. Yeah. And in my current role, though it's a hybrid role, right? So we are both on GCP and Azure. So yeah. So I've got the opportunity to utilize different kind of Azure services. Then in my current role, we actually we utilize IAC, Terraform extensively, for our daily task. For example, in my current role, I help my current company to write some Terraform modules, and I help them build those modules based on their requirements, So yeah, so we have child module, we have the root module. That's the way our environment is set up, Yeah. Then in my environment, we use CAC. I call it CAC, configuration as code. I use Ansible, so to patch our servers, so I help them write Ansible playbooks. So then sometimes I have some ad hoc tasks as well on Ansible that I do. So I work on different kind of Ansible models. I understand working on Ansible. Then in my environment, we actually use Docker as a form of container. So I've worked extensively using Dockerfile. I work on Dockerfile to build Docker image, Docker container, Docker network, Docker compose, and all these components in Docker. I understand them extensively. And for the orchestrating, we use Kubernetes as a form of container orchestration, right? So then we use M to package our application, and we use Argo CD for our continuous deployment, and for the dashboard or the infrastructure. Then another thing is on the security side, I'm very security conscious. So on our infra side, we actually implemented TF-Lint and Checkov on our infrastructure, and on the container side, we actually we use Trivy for our container scan, just to check for CVs and all that. Then aside from my technical background, I would say, I'm a problem solver, so once I get on a ticket, I make sure I own that ticket. I make sure I resolve it, and I own it and I resolve it. Then my leadership skill in my current role, I've led different kind of projects from the designing phase to the workshop phase, to the implementing phase to the delivery phase, and that is what I intend to bring to the table. All these solutions and my experience from the past. And additionally, I'm flexible and I'm also adaptive. I've worked in an agile and waterfall environment. Currently, my environment, we actually use SAFe, Scale Agile Framework, whereby we do Scrum of daily stand-up, like agile level, team level meeting. Then we have program implement planning, that's PI planning, every quarterly, 2 weeks, 2 days, PI planning, like workshop, right, where all the agile release train meets, to discuss the upcoming PI, and we discuss the dependency. We identify risk, and we actually see how we can mitigate the risk. Then we actually look for how we break those features into user stories. Yeah, so pretty much that is the high level overview of my experience. So if you have any follow-up question, I'm ready to give you the best answer I thought would be.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you mentioned kind of going through different phases that you've
Wow.
everything from planning and designing to implementing to
Wow.
maintenance and those kind of things. What would you say is your favorite kind of phase? And can you give me an example of a project that you did, relatively recently, and what parts you enjoyed the most about it, and what your role in it was?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So from my experience, my favorite phase, I would say, is the design and the implementing phase, And I would say that that's where I get the translation of the business or the and the security requirement into into real life. I enjoy that creative and technical balance of designing something scalable, secure maintenance. Let me give an example. Currently, Next Technology, I recently led a project to build like a multi environment infrastructure, so using Terraform for a DoD application. So the challenge was to ensure the environment met strict security and compliance standard while remaining fully automated. So the situation is we needed to deploy identical three environments: the dev, test, and prod environments with minimal manual intervention. So my task for that project was to design reusable Terraform models and integrate them into our CI/CD pipeline. So I created Terraform models template for networking, for compute and storage. I actually implemented the remote state management, using Azure Blob Storage with lock-in and integrated deployment automation through GitHub Actions. I also added some security scanning like TF-Lint and Checkov as part of our pipeline. So the result was we reduced the environment provisioning time from several hours to, I think, under 30 minutes, Under 30 minutes, improved consistency across environment and it also passed our internal security audit with 0 findings, Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How did you handle, sorry, go ahead, Jerry. You have a question?
I was going to ask a follow-up question about Trivy. When you're using Trivy for you're looking for vulnerabilities in container images,
Correct.
then how do you report that out and how do you respond to that? When you do find when Trivy finds that maybe some images are out of date, let's say.
So yeah, great question. So so once Trivy runs, it generates a JSON and HTML reports, that stores in our in our artifact repository and also push to GitHub and part of the build summary. So this will happen. So we set threshold. For example, if any critical or high severity CVEs are found, the pipeline fails automatically. So that prevents vulnerability image, from being promoted to stage or prod. So for visibility, we also forward the scan results to the Azure Monitor. And for cloud dashboard, and I would say the Defender for cloud dashboards, where our security team can review trends and track remediation. So, and my team then patches the base image or update dependencies. Then we run the scan and verify a clean result before merging. Before the merging.
Yeah. So deployment basically fails if Trivy shows
Correct.
there's critical or high vulnerabilities.
Yes, because we already set the threshold.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So a few minutes ago, you were talking about the pipelines, your CI/CD pipelines and GitHub Actions and these kind of things. What kind of, is there a folder structure or a deployment method or your GitHub pipelines that you've used to help get from dev to prod and have those environments look the same, or do you let dev kind of be more like a lab sandbox and can it be different from prod, or how do you handle dev to prod differences or things like that, and then pipelines?
Yeah, so we always structure our CI/CD pipeline to ensure environment consistency and modular deployment, from dev to prod, So in our GitHub Actions setup, we actually follow like a folder structure, So so we have the infra, the model, the net, So we just follow the folder structure. So each environment folder contains its own TFS file. You get so because so TFS file override the variable files. So because we did not hard code it, so the TFS file override the so yeah.
So
But
one
but
common set of modules and the TFRs from the different environments. is
correct.
different.
Yes. So it overrides. Yeah.
Great.
So and our GitHub action workflows runs in stages. So we have the validate, the approval and apply. So we actually run those in stages.
Awesome. How do you handle security in Azure in general? Do you have strategies of things that you've focused on?
Yeah. So security now just starts, I would say, like with identity, access control, and compliance automation. First we ensure I would say RBAC, role-based access control, using Azure AD, so. And of course the RBAC, so every resource group and subscription has its, I would say, like a scoped rules, and we use managed identities for services instead of static credentials. So and for the secret and for the secret and keys, all these are all stored in Azure Key Vaults. Then second, we can use like Azure policy, just to ensure compliance. For example, we ensuring like all stored or storage accounts having encryption enabled, public access disabled and public access disabled. Yeah. Then I would say thirdly, we can integrate maybe Defender for cloud, security center for continuous posture management and vulnerability access.
What about that's all good stuff to have in there. What about on the architecture side of things, like the networking? What do you typically do for your Azure environments as far as networking goes?
Okay, so on the networking side, right? So we on the networking side, I always design the Azure environment with urban scope, architecture, for I would say better isolation and control, so hub contains shared services like firewalls, bastion hosts, and VPN gateways. So while each spoke represents an application, or say or different environments. So let's say for example dev and test or prod. So yeah. So and for traffic control, we can use our NSGs, and application and ASGs, just for our just for firewalls, so yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Have you ever used Azure Firewall
Yes.
versus NSGs? I mean, just to let you know, we kind of made the decision to use Azure Firewall.
Azure firewalls.
Even in between our internal resources versus NSGs. But it's not to say we won't ever. Kevin and I just had this conversation recently that, the security team, gets all these requirements and they're asking us, well, don't we have network security groups and network security group rules? And we're like, no, we're using Azure Firewall. That's kind of a decision we made at the networking level. But how have you found it working with NSGs and NSG rules and Terraform?
So like you said, I would say Azure Firewall actually gives you that centralized control and visibility, especially in a very in a multi-environment setup, probably the dev, So I would say, so from experience, when I've worked with NSGs and rules in Terraform, I usually treat them as a fine, uh, like a fine grained, something like that, like a subnet level control, rather than main perimeter defense. I actually define them as a part of each module. For example, let's say like the subnet module include the NSG definition and association, so everything stays modular and reusable. So yeah.
Do you have kind of a preference of, so you've mentioned virtual machines, you've mentioned containers, there's
Right.
also, function, Lambda kind of things. Do you have a
Right.
preference on those, or when would you say how you decide when to use one of those versus another?
That's so I would say like the choice actually really depends on the workload type. It depends on the workload type and the I would say like the operation overhead. So let's say if I need like a full control of our operating system, like let's say for example like the legacy application or specialized security agents, I will go with like Azure virtual machines. Because they're actually great for workload that requires like a persistent state. So for microservices, right? So, yeah, I prefer containers. Usually deployed in our AKS. Containers give like a faster deployment. And easier scaling. Consistent environments across different environments. Yeah, and also for event-driven or lightweight tasks, like schedule jobs or webhook processing, I use Azure Functions. Yeah, because they are, I would say, like cost effective and they are cost effective and scale automatically without managing infrastructures. Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me, let me sip water real quick. Oh. Yeah.
Murat, you're on mute.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, absolutely. They're
Yeah.
good explanations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just so you know, like we are kind of re-looking at AKS. Murat mentioned when we first got here like 4 years ago, like the
Okay.
team that had started the portal app was using AKS, and then
Yes.
we just didn't feel like we had enough people that knew it well enough at that point to continue with it. So we went to hosting on app services, and then we didn't like how that was working, and so we moved to container apps. And now we're considering going to AKS again, right? Like going full circle. So do you have any experience with how things scale horizontally with AKS and the scaling rules that you have maybe used in the past with AKS?
Yes, so AKS actually, I've worked extensively with AKS and I've implemented both I would say both manual and automatically scaling, So we can use like HPA, horizontal pod auto scaling, Yeah.
Yeah, is it predictable? Like one thing that we're running into right now is that Brent, one of our other engineers, is trying to get a handle on the horizontal scaling with container apps, and it doesn't seem to be deterministic in one way or another. It just seems that there's not really a good rule. And he's been asking Microsoft about this. So I didn't know if you had any of those experiences or if you've seen it behave much better in AKS. Let's say like it's predictable that you can actually see it scale out and scale back, right? Because we're kind of seeing it pegged and not really scaling back during the day, which you would expect it would. It's not always going to be, maxed out. It shouldn't be. So those are the kind of things that we're running into right now. One of the reasons we're considering AKS.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I've actually seen that behavior too. So, sometimes containers apps can sometimes feel like I would say like non uh deterministic when scaling. Especially when there is like is well, I would say when especially under like variable workloads. So for example, if a AKS tends to be more like a predictable because you have like direct control over both the HPA and the cluster autoscaler, you know. So yeah. So I'll say like in one of my projects we had a similar issue with unpredictable like scaling of container apps. So we actually so we migrated AKS with Keter, and after turning the HP and cooldown period, scaling became much more stable and cost efficiency. Yeah.
All right. And then if you had good experience setting up the different probes with AKS and the applications that you host in AKS, setting up the different like readiness probes and
Edge probes.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yes, I love the Nest
have you had any
probes.
have you had any
Yeah.
struggles with that? Because it seems like our team has some struggles with that, getting those set up correctly.
Well, I've actually like work on it, but I would say like you know like I've actually worked on different kind of like I've actually worked on it like that, but I've not really like get into like a trouble on it.
Okay.
Do you have any? Have you done much with DRHA stuff? Have you worked on setting up multi-region environments? Could you maybe outline just a high level how you've handled an architecture like that, especially if it's in Azure or if you have to in GCP or AWS?
Yes, I've actually worked a bit on disaster recovery, right? So like typically I typically my experience on Azure side, let's say like I typically design the DR using Azure Site Recovery for virtual machines, and geo redundancy, so the GRS for like the data replication, so for the container workloads, just so like for containerizing workloads in AKS, so I use like a multi-region deployment, so we typically we replicate the data using like Azure SQL replication, or let's say like we can actually use the Azure Blob Storage replication as well, and the DNS failover is handled through like Azure Traffic Manager, to automatically route traffic to the LD environments, Yeah. So quarterly we run like we do like quarterly DR drills to like validate recovery time objective, the RTO and the RPO. For example, in one of this project, we achieve an RTO of under like 30 minutes by automating failover through Terraform and Azure CLI scripts. Yeah. So yeah, that's just a little bit of what we can say on DR.
Yeah. I guess maybe getting off technical stuff just a little bit.
Okay.
Can you tell us about a time where you had a different opinion, different perspective on how to implement something than someone else, and how you worked through that, or did your idea get chosen, or if not, how'd you kind of work through that?
Okay, so let me give you an example. There's one situation on one of my projects with Teleworld Solutions where we were designing like a CI/CD pipeline, just for like a multi-cloud deployment. Then we actually like building like a landing zone, so for a particular application, right? So the team, so the situation is that the team initially wanted to use like a manual approval gate and shell script for deployment to production before they felt it gave them more control, So I believe that, so my task is, I believe that approach would slow down delivery and increase human error. So I propose using like GitHub Actions with automated validation and policy checks instead. So my action, I presented a proof of concept, showing how we could integrate Terraform plan, validate and security scan with, I think we were using checkmarks then. We were using checkmarks, for that, and automated approval through pull requests. I also demonstrated rollback capabilities to address their concern about control. So after the testing, the team agreed to adopt the automated approach, so, and it reduced the deployment time by about 60%, and improve consistency across environments and eliminate several manual errors,
So to get them to kind of adopt your idea, it sounds like you kind of did a POC and then presented it, or how'd you kind of convince people that it was the right way to go?
Oh yeah, so during that, I actually I built a small proof of concept, in the sandbox environment to demonstrate the idea end to end. I wanted the team to see the results, not just hear a story. So everybody want to see results. It's not about, oh, this is it, we'll do this. So I show how the automated pipeline handled validation, security scan, and rollback, and then compared, the deployment time and error rates against the manual approach they were using. So once they saw the metrics and how, clearly it integrates with Terraform, it was much easier for everyone to get on board, So yeah, that was just my approach on that.
So I have a question, if I could, Kevin. I would think that X is kind of trying to use AI as much as possible. Can you give some examples of where you have found some AI agents or AI solutions, maybe custom AI solutions that you or your team have created that have saved work for you or for others?
Right, great question. So Terry, you recently in my current role, the extra current being DoD. So recently the federal government implemented some AI into our workspace for efficiency, So yeah, so and it has we've also integrated AI driven automation into our DevOps workflow to reduce manual effort and improve observability, So for example, in one there's one AI based log analytics agent, so that was built, so majorly, so there's one AI so that was actually built, that was kind of like a AI based log analysis agent, so it was built using some cognitive service, in the Azure. So yeah, so
that's similar to what we're trying to do right now. We call it like a triage agent for our application, and basically we're giving it some explicit instructions about log analytics queries that it can run, but we want to be able to expose that to developers and to testers even, so that they can just ask common language questions. What's going on with the portal app? And then have it respond in that way. So yeah, those are some of the things that we're trying to implement, just helpers for our teams.
Right. Yeah, it's really
So I had a different, non-technical question. So Leonard, what do you like to do for fun? What is kind of what's your life outside of technology?
Oh yeah, great question. Honestly, my first is I love travel. I love to travel. Yeah, so Yeah,
Like
the
where?
last,
Like where do you like
yeah,
traveling?
yeah, the last place I traveled was I traveled to Australia.
Nice.
Australia,
That's a
yeah,
long flight.
yeah, that was a long flight. 15 hours. 15 hours from San Francisco. Yeah, 15
Okay.
straight hours. Yeah, yeah.
Are you based in San Francisco? Just
No,
you
no,
mentioned
I'm based in
Texas.
Houston. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I've actually flew from Houston to San Francisco, to Melbourne, Australia.
So another kind of question in terms of like work preferences. So you're saying you're doing some Scrum, but you guys are using Safe.
Yeah,
So how do you like to work? Like ideal, and there's no right or wrong question, the answer
wow.
to this. Like what do you prefer? Like a Kanban board where you can just like pick one thing after another? Do you like no, I want 2 weeks. I want to be very thoughtful. Like what's your preference?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's why I said like one of my personal skill is I'm flexible and I'm adaptive, due to the business needs, So in my experience, I've worked in an agile environment,
Which do you
well,
like? It's like we're going to a
okay, yeah,
restaurant. You can go to any
seriously,
of them.
yeah,
Which do you
seriously.
pick?
Yeah, honestly, I kind of like agile methodology, some kind
You
of
prefer
way,
Scrum?
I prefer
Like 2
Scrum.
weeks break or
Yeah, 2 week
Kanban where you
sprint.
just
Yeah,
pack?
just 2 week sprint. Yes.
So 2 week sprints. So in
Yeah.
a typical 2 week sprint, like how many points do you normally carry for your scale?
Yeah. So for the 2 week sprints, so it depends on I usually carry around 20, 25 story points.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
kind of do sprints. So and it's flexible. Like we're trying to do more, mainly because we have a lot of different things. So like I said, there's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
So another kind of high level um, question. So we have a bunch of stuff in Confluence, and we have some people who like to write things down more, some people who like to write things down less. Where do you kind of fall? Like, do you prefer lots of documentation? I also think you're a security guy. Security people usually like a lot of documentation.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, again, just what's your preference?
Yeah, honestly, I like documentation. That's just my own personal thing. If anything I do, I love to document it. So for example, in my environment, we are SharePoint. So anything I do, I love documentation. So it kind of give you. So even my own belief is even if you give a solution and it's not documented, I believe the solution is just halfway, because once you give a solution and you document it, even any engineer can come in time in the next 6 months or 8 months and see the documentation and see what you've done for the past 8 months, But if it's not well documented, I mean, you will be blind. Even you that you do that solution, you will have to oh, how did I resolve this? How did I go about it? But once you document it, yeah. So even myself, I have my own personal. I use Notion. So everything I do, any personal project I do, I put in my Notion. So easily, oh, this is the project I do. So I take screenshots, post little notes. Any error I encounter, I put it there. Oh, this is the error. This is how I resolve it and all that. Yeah. So I have each task. This is Docker. All those things. So this is a project I was working on. That's just my own personal documentation I have, just I'm sharing. So that is why I believe a good work ethics should looks like as well. So it's all about collaboration. It's not nobody's hiding code. If we have to share code, review everything. So
No, we definitely don't hide code. Don't worry about that part.
yeah,
We just people document. Mainly, I'm talking about myself. I don't really document anything, so
yeah.
I won't be I'm not your technical colleague. So
Yeah, honestly, I love documentation. So it gives
you're in the right. Yeah, these
Yeah.
two love
Yeah.
documentation.
yeah.
Well, and
Good
we're coming
answer.
up the time. We're coming up the time, but we have more time. I want to make sure, Lenore, you can ask, any questions. You can talk about, culture. You can talk about
Yeah.
tech. You can talk about whatever you want.
Wow.
Any questions you have, don't have this is a good time for you to ask them. We'll all give it a shot.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll say thank you so much for having me on here, today. So, my first question would be what is how does the team typically collaborate? How's the collaboration like? across the dev and other teams in the,
Yeah.
say for example, we're rolling out the infrastructure or platform change or something like that.
Yeah, I can take the first crack at that. So sometimes it does feel like in the tech world that you have too many channels of communication to pay attention to, right? So we use Slack and
Okay.
Teams and then Outlook for email. But on the technical side of things, we use Slack quite extensively.
Okay.
So, our team, we call it Cloud Solutions, has our own channel. The dev team has their own channel, but we do cross collaborate a lot on Slack. So if it's something that we haven't been alerted to, a lot of times, if someone from the dev team notices something, they'll come into our cloud channel and just tell us about something they're noticing. We have certain channels that we use just for, collaborating about ideas about AI. We have a weekly meeting
Right.
about AI initiatives, or just to talk in general about AI. Murat kind of started that scheduled meeting every Friday. But yeah, I would say mostly we use Slack when we talk to each other. I mean, would you guys agree with that? Like on the technical side, that's how we kind of collaborate.
We have a very remote first,
Okay.
totally remote. So the way we're dressing, t-shirts, all good, pajamas, we don't, whatever it is, it's very, this is definitely an engineer's job, so you don't have to, it's very informal in that regard. We also tend to be, we have Teams and Slack. Teams is a bit more of our corporate model, right? Because that's our HIPAA compliant tool, and we use Office, and everybody else is using, primarily using Windows machines. But our team also has access to MacBooks if they want to use it. And we really, it's really Slack. Lots of channels, Slack with Confluence and Jira. I don't know if you're familiar with those two tools.
Yeah, I'm familiar with
We do a
Jira.
lot with Jira and a lot with Confluence. They're like, so when you talk about documentation, that's where we have the documentation. But it's pretty informal. Like we have stand-ups, informal in the sense that we have touch points and people can just jump in and say, hey, Kevin, let me talk to you. It's not like, let me schedule a meeting. We have to go through some rigmarole. Like we try to keep it very lean. And you shouldn't be dealing with any business users. They're like, Terry will keep them away from you. So you can just focus on technical things. So yeah, it's very collaborative, and dealing with the engineers, the actual application engineers. I mean, they deal some with the DevOps people. They're just coding. They're just like, hey, I'm shipping this. You know how engineers are, app devs. They're just kind of into their own stuff, and everything else just magically works.
And you mentioned 2-week sprints. That is what we do.
Okay.
We plan on Mondays, Fridays are the last day of the sprint. But we do get a lot of fly-ins. Kevin can speak to that. Like, we try our best to plan and have things, try to protect ourselves from the fly-ins, but then inevitably they happen, right? And so recently we've tried to not bring too many things into a sprint for 2 weeks, because we know that we're going to get a lot of ad hoc requests.
Well,
and there's a reason for that too. So we had 3 practices. Like CloseKnit was created from this larger insurance company only 4 years ago. We started as a little startup, basically inside of a company, but we're not a startup. There's no equity or anything like that. We're more, so this Care First company said, hey, go make this product. And we went from a few people to now we're 500 4 years later with 50. And needless to say, there are lots of things we're having to fix as we go. And that's kind of why we did our last big implementation of integrating our 3 separate practices into one. And there're just a lot of things we're still fixing, where we're fine tuning. And that's going to continue for probably the next few months at least. But that fly-in mentality, that should start to diminish quite a bit. Right now, it's just we literally just went live with the last practice less than a month ago. So data is still being migrated and users have questions. And I mean, there are a million things that are still happening.
But I do feel like the portal app itself, like our main application that we support in Azure, like that is not an issue. We have not been having deployment issues. We haven't
Right.
been
Our
having
problems are not
downtime.
technical. They're not like
Right.
systems are falling. It's all,
Right.
there's a bunch of like marketing and front desk, all the things that, when you're working with X, you're not going to see like somebody in an office somewhere is mean to a customer. Like that doesn't roll up to us, but those are the things we kind of see in the practice.
Okay. Okay.
You won't, that's not something you would have
Yeah.
to, it'll
And-
never, you'll hear about it somewhere. You would never deal with anything like that.
Yeah, like Murat said, we've kind of moved from a situation where we were all virtual, right? That's how we saw our patients virtually, to now having, how many offices do we have total, Murat? Brick and mortar.
45.
45?
45
Yeah.
brick and mortar doctor's offices.
Okay.
So a lot of it is operational, like how are they operating? How are the doctors operating? How are the medical assistants operating? Those kinds of things. We can try to help come up with solutions for them. And we have been doing that, but our main app has been good. Like we don't have any issues with it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
Sounds
I think a really good, Murat, if you don't mind me, like you mentioned this last week, like a good example is, older patients who are like, maybe they're in their 70s or whatever, they don't use an iPad, or they don't want to use their iPhone
Yeah.
or whatever to register themselves with CloseKnit. They just want to call and make an appointment with their doctor,
the
right?
doctor.
So like,
Yeah.
these are the kinds of things that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Well, and we as a company, not this team. This team doesn't really deal. Now, the opportunities are doing some AI, but I want to make sure we have about 10 minutes at the top of the hour.
Yeah.
Want to make sure, Lenry, do you have any other questions about anything?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Time.
Yes. Another question I want to ask here: how does like somebody hire in this role? How does like the 30, 60, 90 days look like of what the expectation looks like of someone hired in this particular role?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mentioned that too in our first interview. That's how we typically onboard. We have a 30, 60, 90
That's what
day type of thing. Like the first 30 days, this is what the people that you should be introducing yourself to. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, I'll give you a list of people and say, these are the people you should schedule meetings with to get to know them,
That's
because
all.
these are the ones that you're going to be working with very closely. So for example, you'd want to be meeting Julie, like she's the head of the dev team. You already met Murat, our CTO. You've met Kevin, but you'd probably want to meet with him a little bit longer when you're, if you're hired. And then, we have 7 other people on our core team, but that would be like part of the first 30 days would be meeting all of those people, right? And then the other part of the 30 days, and I think I mentioned this to you before, is we do have someone going on parental leave, and so it would be kind of filling in his role, and we would like help you out with understanding the things that he does. And then I would say, like, I'm just guessing, but in like the 60-day time frame, I would say like totally getting involved with deploying Terraform, learning from the team like what our pain points are, maybe moving away from TerraGrunt to just regular Terraform modules.
TerraGrunt.
We talked about state storage, like whether we move away from Terraform Cloud, things like that. So I would think the first, in 60 days would be like that, like getting involved with the Terraform side of things. And then 90 days, I would say that it would probably be looking at AKS, deciding if we want to go to AKS, helping the team maybe roll out some POCs, seeing if we could do things a little bit better, and saving money. Like I do think that's one of the questions we didn't get around to, is like, how do you optimize your spend in Azure? But I do think that as a team, we need to start paying attention to costs in Azure and optimizing them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers one of my questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 There's lots of things on our backlog, right, Kevin? Like tech debt things. Do you want to tick off a couple of the tech debt things off the top of your head?
Yeah. I mean, you covered some of them. Kind of shifting from TerraGrunt into Terraform modules, kind of expanding our GitHub Actions pipelines to make them right now, a lot of our infrastructure, we deploy locally from our host through Terraform. And we want to get this as much as possible into GitHub Actions, pipelines, and things like that. And we've got some deployed that we can start using as templates, but yeah, that would be kind of some of the things I think it'd be really good to have you help with. What else? Terry mentioned, well, just some of the Azure infrastructure stuff. There's firewall that we're looking at restructuring. There's God,
Well, you were
security.
You were
things.
looking into Azure policies, which Larry mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually working on an Azure policy right now that will help with event tracking. So if someone
Right.
drops a file in a storage account, it tracks that and throws that into a database. Different from just monitoring with like KQL queries and stuff, but having it go into a proper event tracking database that'll make querying faster and things like that. But yeah, there's tons of policies out there that I would love to have us get implemented. We've got a small handful, but I want to expand that. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Actually, I'm kind of curious. So what would your dream kind of job be? Like, which of all these things we've kind of talked about, if you were to come on tomorrow and say, all this stuff you guys talked about, here's what I want to work on, what would it be?
Say like okay, stuff I want to work on. Yeah. So like honestly, I would say like I would say we like say like focus on like building like a scalable and secure cloud infrastructure. Yeah, and automated cloud infrastructure. Yeah, I would say that would be my dream setup. Would be to focus on those building a scalable and secure automated cloud infrastructure. Yeah.
So like doing Terraform and deployments.
Oh yeah, Terraform. Yeah, like especially around like using Terraform. The deployments. Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be kind of your dream thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So if I may ask, do you guys use like ARM templates or Biceps or something like that? No. Okay.
We've got some stuff that's Bicep, but that was from a contractor. And
Okay.
the nice thing about Terraform, right, is it's not just Azure. We could use it.
Yes, it's cloud agnostic. Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I love Terraform. I love my Terraform. Yeah, the agnosticness is makes me to love Terraform instead of cloud native ISE.
Yeah, that's kind of our take too, and so
Yeah.
that's been our main thing. We've tinkered and toyed with things like Bicep and ARM. I've used ARM in the past, and it always made me
Yeah.
happy. So
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any other questions,
Yeah,
Larry?
that's it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Murat had asked you a personal question. So a lot of times if we introduce you to the larger team, we ask, can you tell us one fun fact about yourself that not too many people know?
So, like, aside from the traveling, right? Yeah, sometimes I do like so like I love to hang out, especially to hang out, go out there and eat, with family or friends, yeah.
Okay.
But probably sometimes go to the pub, on Fridays evening, yeah, just to refresh,
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one thing again. That's how
I'll meet you at the pub. Kevin, maybe not, but I'll meet you there too. But,
Your
we've got a
designated
few
driver,
people go to the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm also a Navy veteran. Yeah. So.
Oh,
I'm also a Navy veteran.
Oh, okay. Go Navy.
Oh, go Navy. So were you an officer or squid?
I was actually enlisted.
Yeah, squid.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
how long? How many years?
Yeah, I served 8 years.
Oh, wow, you were really.
Yeah.
What was your rate?
I was BM.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you were so okay.
So,
Wow, like you were hardcore.
yeah. So I actually joined BM, then I joined the EN as well. Because when I was joining, I was not a US citizen then. So it has some rate they can give me by then. So the only rate they can
Yeah.
give me is BM. So I became a US
Yeah,
citizen.
that's a hardcore. BM is
Yes, it's
hardcore.
hard. Yeah.
A
But I
lot
have
of
to do
chipping
it
paint and a lot of
because,
ropes.
yeah, so I have to do it because, I was not a US citizen then. So, yeah, so after I joined another cross rates, yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yep, exactly. All
uh,
right, nice.
uh,
Well, our CMO, our chief medical officer, is an '06, a former '06.
oh, okay.
So like a full-on captain in the Coast Guard. So
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to go enlisted, reserve enlisted. Yes. I mean reserve officer. I'm
Okay.
commissioned. I want to go commissioned. Yeah, I'm
A
trying to.
Mustang. Okay,
Yeah.
that's the best kind of officers who are former
Yeah.
enlisted.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So from enlisted, I was trying to go commissioned. Reserve though. Reserve this time around. Yeah. So that's what my plan is.
Mm. Well, the
Yeah.
good news is you're a C1, so you outrank everybody. Everybody in the military. It's like an old joke. I don't know if they used it in the Navy when you were, but when I was in the Navy, it's like that's your promotion to becoming a civilian. So instead of
Okay.
a
So
VP whatever, you're a C1, so it outranks everyone in the military. So
okay. How long do you serve?
2 years.
2 years.
I
Oh,
was all
okay.
yeah. I didn't really do much. So
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
all right, I got
Kevin's
to drop
wife
onto
is,
another call.
yeah, okay. I was
Okay.
gonna say Kevin's wife is military too. She's Army, right, Kevin?
She is.
Oh,
She's
okay.
a colonel. She's a full bird colonel now. So
Oh,
yeah. So she
okay.
tells me what to do, and I just yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
I say, hi, man. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a nurse for the army, so
Yeah.
she's done a lot of time there.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much, Larry, for your time. And
Right.
I mean, just truth be told, you're our first interview,
Right.
so we are obligated to do some more.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of people that applied for the job, and we
Right.
just have to work through them as quickly as we can. So I
Right.
think you could consider this like the first round, and you'll need maybe give us some time to talk to some other people, and then before we get back to you about a follow up. So
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
it'll
Yeah.
probably be a week or so before you hear from us. Just give
Okay.
us some time to do that.
Okay. All right. Sounds
Is that
good.
okay?
That's fine. That's perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much
Okay.
for having me on here today.
All right. Thank you, Larry.
Yeah. Same here.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, bro. So far.